some more slides referring to the horse riding fashions from the 80s and from the Belle Epoque. As you can see, here we have one photograph of an actual surviving garment. You can see the boots, which are also quite typical. This costume was worn with high boots rather than shoes for practical reasons. It was actually more comfortable and safer to ride a horse wearing a boot and to use the stirrups wearing the boots. We also have some photographs from the 80s of women wearing riding habits with top hats, even no decorations here. So as you can see, they look very masculine, at least as far as their hats go. But of course, these costumes are worn over very tightly laced corsets, so the figure of the horsewoman is very feminine. Here you can see also the main difference between a riding habit and the tailor-made costume. The upper part could be similar, the bodice could be very similar, but of course the hat would be different and the skirt for the riding habit would be much longer than for the tailor-made costume. The tailor-made was a day-wear attire, and it would normally be used with a slightly shorter skirt, the so-called walking length skirt, rather than a skirt that was deliberately made longer so it would cover the feet of a lady on horseback. So if you have a woman basically gathering up her skirts to walk, this is a riding habit, and there is no doubt about it. This is definitely not a tailor-made costume, even though there are similarities and some sort of, let's say, inspirations between these two kinds of costumes. Here we have another great influencer, woman who was admired for her beauty and also for her horsemanship, and this is Empress Elizabeth of Austria, Empress Sissi. You may remember her from the Crinoline period and the beautiful portraits made by Winterhalter. Here we have a plate showing Empress Elizabeth wearing a riding habit. So she has this very long skirt and a very tightly fitted bodice. If you look at the accessories, of course, she holds this short stick for managing the horse, and she wears a top hat slightly tilted forwards, as was the fashion. And if you look at the collar of the blouse that she's wearing, this collar is very simple. It really resembles a male shirt. This is typical. This continues in the Belle Epoque. So here we have two more slides. One from the later 80s, so the second bustle. There is some gathering at the back, but of course not a proper bustle. It would be too uncomfortable to wear while horse riding. But here we have the the Belle Epoque style, in which the top hat is replaced by a bowler hat, and you can see the return of the leg of mutton sleeves, used for the jacket for horse riding. In the background there is even a figure of a woman riding a horse, so there is a very strict indication like what this costume was used for. So that's the most popular sport for women throughout the 19th century, which was very elegant, which was connected with high status, wealth, and all the kind of positive, attractive features. However, especially in the last quarter of the 19th century, we have many other sports becoming fashionable and popular, and of course, because they were practiced by the richer sections of the society, they increasingly require specialized costumes. So here we have some images showing these sports that become popular in the 70s, in the 80s, and then at the turn of the century. Tennis was quite popular. This was, again, one of the few sports in which young women could compete against men. This was a form of flirting. We have some images here, a painting from the 70s and then another fashion plate from 1899 showing women with tennis rackets wearing what looks like fashionable Belle Epoque costumes with shorter skirts. So these are definitely walking length skirts, and of course this is worn with the corset. These sporting costumes were all worn with corsets. The point was really more in elegance and flirtation than in, let's say, health and wellness. Here we have a cartoon from Punch magazine actually making fun of the ladies who spent too much time playing tennis, and they were careless enough to wear shorter sleeves with their dresses, so their hands and forearms got suntanned, and now they are embarrassed to wear ball dresses. We'll talk about the seaside and sun tanning in a little moment, but let us now finish with other sports. Some sports that did not require a lot of running were popular as well. So archery and fencing and golf was also quite popular for women. And so these disciplines were ladylike. They didn't require a lot of running, so they could be safely practiced wearing long skirts and corsets and everything. So here we have some images of fashionable ladies practicing fencing or archery. Another popular type of exercise was ice skating in winter. Also sometimes roller skating in other seasons. It wasn't as popular as ice skating, but ice skating was really very fashionable at the turn of the century. And here we have a fashion plate of two ladies skating, and just look at their clothes. These are very smart, very elegant clothes that normally would not be associated with sports, but of course ice skating rings and roller skating rings were a form of city entertainment. So you would practice these sports wearing fashionable clothes. Here we have some more fashion plates referring to a popularity of walking, especially kind of walking, cross-country walking, mountain walking, and we have some plates from, well, the earliest one is from 1869, and you can clearly see two women wearing crinolet dresses. So with some sort of dress improver, like the half crinoline at the back, and they are shown in the mountains. They have this lunette to observe the scenery, and very likely this is what women would be wearing for mountain walks. We have some more fashion plates from the 80s and then the Edwardian period. And note that all these costumes are supposed to be worn over corsets. Probably the elements that would make it more suitable for walking are the length of the skirt, so the walking length skirt, some accessories perhaps, so the hats that would be less fussy than the hats mostly worn in the city, and definitely boots. They would be wearing walking boots rather than let's say shoes that were less durable and more elegant. And then in the 90s there appears something that even gets a name of the bicycle mania, the great fashion for cycling, for men and women. This is something that really changes the society. All the young, lively women want to have bicycles for sport, and many middle-class women want to ride bicycles as a means of transport. So, of course, you can ride a horse side saddle, but you cannot do the same with the bicycle. So fashion had to respond to the new technology. And what we have is the first costume which uses something resembling trousers for women to be worn, to be visible in the street. Of course, only with the context of bicycle riding. And the moment that the woman parted with her bicycle, she was supposed to change into her skirt again. But there were special kinds of skirts with like two separate legs. So they were basically trousers that looked like a skirt. They were extremely short, so not only showing the feet, but sometimes even the ankles. Or even some sort of pants, baggy pants, usually inspired by some sort of oriental costumes, or one costume that we will discuss later, which was called the bloomer costume, which also included such pants. They start to be worn by women riding bicycles. The upper part, the jacket, the bodice, would be typical, fashionable. So at the turn of the century you'll have the typical Belle Epoque jackets worn with decorative blouses, worn with hats. They could be a bit more sensible, like boater hats perhaps, but not really the top hats that were fashionable for horse riding. But the bottom part again had to be adjusted for the activity. So we have those short trouser skirts or actual pants, actual kind of baggy knickerbockers or baggy breeches. Here we have some fashion plates. We have a photograph from the late 90s of young women riding bicycles, and we have two cartoons from Punch magazine actually making fun of those costumes and ridiculing the assumed masculinity of bicycle costumes for women. The first one shows a lady cyclist traveling in the Netherlands. We see a windmill in the distance and some local people dressed in Dutch costumes, and you can see that the pants that the peasant man is wearing are just identical to the pants that the lady cyclist is wearing. And what she seems to be saying is, what a ridiculous costume. And of course the reader is supposed to notice the similarity, that it's not only the folk costume of the Netherlands, but it's also the cycling costume that is ridiculous. The other one shows a scene in England near a village apparently called Wareham. And the lady asked, is this the way to wear them? So we have again a conversation with a local man, and the man did not understand her. She understood she's not asking about the village, but she's asking about the way to wear them, to wear the trousers. And he says something like, I guess you got them on all right, but he is a bit probably embarrassed by the fact that he has to explain to a woman how to wear the pants. Metaphorically, of course, wearing the trousers was a man's thing, so a woman who dared to wear any sort of two-legged garments was overstepping a very important social boundary. So now we move on to another subject, that is the seaside holidays and the sea bathing.